Hi everyone, my name is Laura and welcome to Book Bubbler. Today I just made a little cup of coffee quickly. We're running errands all morning. I got groceries from my mom and her neighbor who had surgery. So that was a trip. Grocery store to both of their houses. Then I forgot something from my mom, so I had to go back to the grocery store, back to my mom's house. Target, bank, day off running errands. Cold is Tuesday. So I've been thinking about what I wanted to do next because I don't want to get into a rut, and I didn't have any tags in mind. I could do that New Year's booktuber tag, but that seems a little late now since it's the 21st of January. So I thought I would do a video where I talk about 5 authors I would love to get back to. In most cases, actually, in all but one case, I have only read one book by the author. I liked it a lot, and then I went out and bought a whole bunch more because I don't do anything by halves. So alphabetically, there's no other order here, just alphabetically. I just pulled off the books by by authors that I need to read yet, that I own. And we will see how this goes. Maybe I will do this again. First up is Wendell Berry. He is, this is one of the ones I have not read yet. He is an American author. He's an essayist, writes about the environment, farming, culture, nature. I mean, he has a farm, I believe still. I don't know if he's still alive. I'm assuming he is. I didn't look this up. That's terrible. What a pro I am. So he's nature writing, all of that stuff. I've only read individual pieces by him before, but he was a favorite writer of my Uncle Rob, who passed away a couple of years ago. Now, my uncle lived outside of Fairbanks, Alaska, built his own cabin, log cabin, one-room log cabin, no running water. In the 60s, when he moved up there, my grandparents went up to help him a couple of times. My mom went up to help him a couple of times and stuff. And my uncle worked for the Fish and Game Department for his whole career outside of the Army once he was done with the Army. And he was a big environmentalist. He tracked wolves in the 80s and 90s. He started reintroducing wild buffalo and bison into the American plains and into Alaska and changed laws. He's internationally well known in that small circle. I'm sure none of you are as familiar with that circle, but his name was Robert Stevenson. He just loved nature and nature writing, great sense of humor, wonderful person, but Wendell Berry is one of his favorite authors. And one of the times that he came home to stay with me when he was visiting, he was aghast that I had no Berry on my bookshelves. So he bought me this one to start out with, and then I went out and bought these next 3 books. He's such a thoughtful writer. I mean, he's got lovely wording and phrases, and there's no reason why I haven't gotten back to him other than time. So What Are People For? I also have The Unsettling of America. This is more about community and stuff. I have Sex, Economy, Freedom, and Community, and The Gift of Good Land. So the only way I think I'll get to him this year is if I do a buddy read, if anyone is interested, or if there's a group read that will happen or something. I'm hesitant to moderate and start something on YouTube. I'm unfamiliar with, obviously, even editing at this point, so I'm a little hesitant to start doing a group read of any kind. So I don't want to do a big thing, but if anyone else does any kind of Wendell Berry read-alongs or anything, I would be all in for it. So the next author I have is Shirley Jackson. Again, an American author. Actually, is she American? She's got to be American, right? Yep, San Francisco. Here is The Bird's Nest. I read We Have Always Lived in the Castle a few years ago and just absolutely fell head over heels with it. It's so quirky and off-put, a little unsettling, and kind of creepy. I mean, gothic feeling. I love all that stuff. So I was like, oh good, Shirley Jackson, I love her based on the one book that I read, so let me go buy a bunch more. I did. I'm familiar with some of the plots of one of her other books. That would be Okay, so I have this one to read, The Bird's Nest, and The Haunting of Hill House, which has been made into movies a couple of different times. Turner Classic Movies recently had the 1950s, I believe, edition, or early 60s edition of the movie version of this, and it was so unbelievably slow. I mean, really just like dragged everything out. I watched 20 minutes and got so bored I just turned it off. And it's got Vincent Price, who I adore, who normally can save any movie for me, but not this one. Anyways, so Shirley Jackson, love her whole gothic thing. So I've got The Bird's Nest to read, The Haunting of Hill House, Come Along With Me, which, yeah, that's just a standalone. Oh, this is her last unfinished novel. Didn't know that. All right. Way to prepare, Laura. Raising Demons. This is her autobiography, memoir, whatever you want to call it, about raising her kids and moving house and things. And then probably most of you saw this a couple years ago when it was out, but this is her newer essays, newer short stories, you know, undiscovered things. So yeah, that is my Shirley Jackson TBR. Next up is Jhumpa Lahiri. Now, I read and absolutely fell in love with her first book that won the Pulitzer Prize, Interpreter of Maladies, a collection of short stories, which I'm not usually a short story person. For no real reason, everything I have read short story-wise, I have always really enjoyed. So in my brain, I think, oh no, I don't like short stories, but everything I've read, I enjoy, just in general, short stories. So I think I need to change that little mantra, narrative, whatever, in my head. Anyways, I was so excited after I read Interpreter of Maladies and had to then wait for more of her books to come out. So I have 3 of them here. The rest of them are all on my wish list, and I have yet to read another one. Though I did read that little, like, thin, it was like this big, I mean really tiny, thing about book covers or book editing that was out a couple of years ago around Christmas time. I read that and enjoyed it. But I haven't been back to like a bigger, proper novel or collection of hers. So I have The Namesake and Unaccustomed Earth and The Lowland. If any of you have read any of her stuff, I mean, you know she's got such a wonderful way with language. So next up, you would think that this would be the biggest stack of books. It's right here, just underneath this, of an author that I have to get back to, but I think that honor belongs to Nora Roberts. I have something like 20 of her books under her name, and then I have almost the entire In Death series she writes under the name J.D. Robb. I must have 50 books under that name, but I'm not kidding, it's a lot of books. So anyways, next one I want to talk about is Salman Rushdie. So this is his very first novel. Again, I have not read this yet. I read, oh my gosh, how can I forget this? I had to read it twice in college, and I loved it both times. My edition is in my basement in my big red pile. Midnight's Children, goodness gracious. That won I think it was the Man Booker then, in the 70s, 80s. Ignore the dates on this, clearly. I don't know what's going on. Anyways, focus. Hi, pay attention. I loved Midnight's Children. I really like magical realism, and something about reading that book, there are a couple of passages in there that are just absolutely burned into my brain, and I feel like I was the character in the book, and it wasn't me doing, like, actively reading something. No, that was really me. That was me in the laundry basket with my nose running and all these crazy things going through my head. Like, something about it was just wonderful. So I started to reread that a third time outside of college, and I liked it a lot too, but I thought, no, there's so much that he's written that I have not read yet that I need to read. So a few years ago, for the classics book group I'm in, I picked Haroun and the Sea of Stories, which is, I believe, connected to Midnight's Children. Don't quote me on that. And liked that as well. So I have read a whole 2 books of his, and I have all of these here to read. So I have Grimus, The Moor's Last Sigh. This, I think, is an early edition, if not a first edition, because that's how I roll at the used bookstore. Fury, The Enchantress of Florence, Luca and the Fire of Life, which, oh, I got confused earlier. So Haroon and the Sea of Stories is the first, and this one is the second in this duology. They're, I mean, written years apart, like decades apart, but so Luca and the Fire of Life. Joseph Anton, which is his memoir, but I believe it's sort of a fictionalized memoir-ish, not sure, a little chunkier. And then 2 years, 8 months, and 28 nights. So he takes up a lot of shelf space in the main living room. I should really try and read some of those. And the last one I want to talk about today is Julia Stewart. She is probably way less well known compared to like Jhumpa Lahiri. Everybody else here, actually. I'm sure everyone has, if has not read something by one of these people, owns something, has heard of them. This may be one that you have not so much. So I am a member of LibraryThing. It's been, I believe it's coming up on 12 years this year. I'll be a member. And they have an early reviewers program. So you can sign up for free, and you can, on the first of the month, the first week of the month, you can go through and request however many books you want to request. There are hundreds listed, all different formats. And sometimes the publishers, I think, decide to a random number. Not sure how they pick, but you can win a book and then they just ask that you review it. They have a similar thing on Goodreads that was started, of course, afterwards. But so I got a lot of really wonderful books out of that program and authors that I really adore. And Julia Stewart is one of them. So this is her second book. The book that I read was her first book. It was called The Matchmaker of Perigord. It was, again, magical realism, quirky. Some people call it whimsical, but if you watch my last sweary chat, you know that that's a word that I absolutely hate, so I won't use that again. It's disgusting. Ooh, shake it off. So quirky, light but not featherbrained, easy reading. It's delightful, kind of lovely books. And not everything can be or should be or has to be one way all the time. You don't have to challenge your preconceptions about, you know, how the world works or different viewpoints all the time. I mean, you just need comfort reading, and that's kind of what she is. So I need to get back to her books. I only have 2 other ones here. I'm not sure if she's written more outside of these initial 3. I hope she has, but I don't know. Hard to tell. So this is The Tower, the Zoo, and the Tortoise. This is about a beef eater who works at the tower named Balthazar, and he's tasked with setting up the zoo, essentially. And, you know, like animals go missing, tourists get a little compromised, and he's got to try and get everything back under control before the queen finds out. So there's this one. And then this next one, The Pigeon Pie Mystery, which is, I believe, a follow-up from The Tower, the Zoo, and the Tortoise. Yep, follow-up. So yeah, Victorian England, queens involved, something, I don't know, but just kind of quirky, fun, little light reading books. So those are 5 authors I would love to get back to. Wendell Berry, Shirley Jackson, Jhumpa Lahiri, Salman Rushdie, and Julia Stewart. Do you have anyone that you want to get back to that you've only read 1 or 2 of? Have you read any of these that I have not read yet, and you want to tell me how much you like them? If you didn't like something and you want to give me a heads up, that's cool. Let me know that too. And yeah, I hope that you guys find something here that maybe you didn't know about before, a new author that maybe you could try, and maybe they'll become a favorite. I don't know. And I hope you're all having a wonderful, warm week, and it's not this 20-degree, huge blasts of winds, freezing cold, icy kind of thing that we have here in Wisconsin. So, all right, I'm going to go put my feet up and have my coffee, and I will see you guys later. Bye.